Shipwrecks. Oh damn! How many that went? How many did we do? Didn't we do this like a few weeks ago? Oh my god, I don't remember.
Oh yeah, I saw on TikTok that someone made reboot Thomas into the original Thomas.
I I know
And
who
we are
exactly you're talking
live
about.
here at Activity Season
And
1, Episode 40. We're going to talk about more tragic shipwrecks. And the first one we will talk about is the RMS Empress of Ireland. Would you know that, Drift?
no, I actually currently did not because I'm more of a Titanic guy than anything else.
And didn't you know that the RMS Emperor of Ireland was also known as the Canadian Titanic?
I heard about that. Yeah, I did my research. I'm sorry, I don't research that much of the internet. Okay, I'm more of a guy that just wants to see things. You know, I want to be amused. You know, the kind of way. And a lot of people might
Yeah.
say, "Oh, like I know." I also saw this in the
I'm
comments
gonna
below,
send you. I'm gonna
and I
send
know
you.
one of you
I'm gonna
guys.
send
Like,
you a
hold
reference
on, dude.
too.
Hold on, dude.
I'm
And
gonna
I,
send you a
like,
reference.
listen. There's a comment below one of our videos, so
Drift,
one of your videos.
Drift. Also,
I don't
I
know who
just sent you a
commented,
reference too. I just sent
but
you a reference too.
someone, but someone said, "What do we use for resource whenever we were researching most of these incidents?" Well, the answer isn't pretty. The answer is we use Wikipedia, and I know a lot of people say, "Wait, what do you mean it's the?"
Well, I don't trust Wikipedia. I don't trust Wikipedia
I don't trust it
because,
either. Okay, I'm just saying this. That's number one. You know, sometimes
but
they
I
have
don't
a bit of
trust like,
information,
but when
but
I
I prefer
choose
searching
one of
up
their,
other websites. You know, search it up more on websites. You know.
won't search up more websites such as the fandom.com or fanbase too.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, but let's get to the topic right now. So we're gonna show this
Yeah,
picture to everyone.
I sent it you in a private
Well,
chat.
yeah, I got it. I got it. Can you show the audience about the ship? Okay. Let's talk about this one. Okay.
Oh, is that you?
Yes. It's This is the ship. This was the RMS Impress of Ireland. Okay. So just let you guys know.
I hate this.
So this ship was pretty. I don't know.
No,
Like I think it was pretty popular at the time. I don't know. Like I might be wrong.
I
So please leave a comment below to see if I'm wrong or not. But let's talk about it. Okay. So the RMS Empress of Ireland. I'm so sorry. I apologize if I didn't say it right. Was a British-built ocean liner that sank near the mouth of the St. Lawrence River in Canada following collision in the thick fog with the Norwegian color Starstad in the early hours of 29th May on 29th of 1914. Although the ship was equipped with
I
watertight compartments and
feel
in the aftermath of Titanic disaster. Remember, this happened like 2 years ago after Titanic's disaster. You know, and little background. You know, after Titanic's disaster, there was an inquiry. You know, between America and UK. You know, they were trying to figure out what was the reason why Titanic happened and who was to blame. And no one was to blame, honestly. It, it happened because of error. You know, the iceberg hit it. You know, the captain and the crew on board they did everything they can to save everyone, but they didn't have lifeboats, and most of them drowned within just 3 or 2 minutes and such. Oh my god. You guys continue reading, honestly, because you know, hold on. We're back.
Yes. 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 Alan, are you here?
Still here. So who's reading that? Where's Manuel?
Stop. X11. No. Andy, stop.
Okay. Now what?
Mom and Dad sent ready for tomorrow. Elijah, did Jairo confirm? Did he talk to him? Elijah? Elijah, are you listening to me? I don't think so. Yeah. He said, "Hey, you him? Just call me." Not each your sister. Oh, it's not your sister. No, sister.
Oh,
Honey, I'm gonna take a shower. You wanna take a I'm gonna go up earlier. You more. Stop. Drift? Drift? Right here? Hello?
Manuel.
I'm here.
I'm still waiting for him.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Drift.
Are you there, Manuel?
I got myself ready for tomorrow. You need to take care of it because it's muggy. What happened? Elijah. Elijah. It's this way. You cannot write it. I was talking about the balance. I was talking about the balance. Which one? You have to balance. You know, you're still wearing your shorts. Dang. Come on. You have if you know try. Damn. Oh, Tugs. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, hey.
Tugs, do you like my Owl House Amity plush?
Oh, I saw that I saw that on your community. Yes. Oh, I cannot see. Does anyone have to leave
Drift
because
hurts.
I can see it better?
Alex, are you still here?
Alex?
Oh, hey, Snoopy.
Hi.
They're talking about tragic shipwrecks. But Drift is still taking forever. Drift?
I don't really like boats that much.
You don't really like boats?
No, not at all.
Do you like trains more?
Yeah.
But soon in the future topics we will talk about trains, but I'll let you know.
Okay. Honestly, I just see boats as big hunks of metal on water.
So
Oh, I have the movie Titanic on Blu-ray. Look.
you have the Titanic, the 1997 one on DVD.
It's the blue one. Oh, it's a Blu-ray Titanic.
Also, I hope this doesn't come across as offensive, but I think the people in the submarine who imploded were stupid. They honestly were. Water pressure's really high at the bottom of the ocean, and they shouldn't have just brought a submarine down there just to see some old ship that crashed in 1912.
Great. I'm just strong. You like Amity?
So you're just gonna stay silent?
No, we're still waiting for Drift to come back.
Oh, okay.
Hello? What's going on?
Hey, Manuel.
Okay.
You're almost.
Wait, what's going on? I'm sure I can see the
Drift,
screen.
Oh,
Drift, you haven't finished reading it yet.
Oh, oh, sorry. Oh,
oh,
sorry.
Barry Swift, I show Elisha the Titanic Blu-ray I have.
Yeah, yeah, the nice. I remember one. Yes.
No, it's the 1997, the James Cameron one.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, get to the. I'm getting to the point. Okay. So where do we left off? Oh, yes. Okay. So okay. I'm just gonna make this real quick about this topic, but like about like about 2 years after Titanic's disaster, this was a ship incident that happened with the Queen, with the Empress of Ireland, Empress of Ireland, and this ship was, of course, sunk in 2 years after Titanic disaster, and as a result, and as a result of Titanic disaster, of course, that happened 2 years ago. Ships were required to carry more lifeboats, more safety features, but
Your
and
microphone's
people don't
glitching.
really talk about this incident much, honestly, and I don't blame them because this incident happened 2 years just before
Your
Titanic
microphone's
disaster, and of
glitching.
course just before a couple months later, World War One would happen. The First
Drift.
World War would happen in 1914. What's up?
Your microphone's glitching.
Oh, sorry. It's glitching now.
It's still glitching, yes.
Oh shoot. Hold on. Let me leave and join. Hold on. Can you still hear me glitching or no?
Yes, your microphone's
Hold on.
glitching.
Hold on. You can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but I'm just saying that your microphone's glitchy.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I am trying to fix the situation. You guys hear me? Hello? Hello? Someone? I need someone to, can anyone hear me?
Yes, I hear
I
you.
have to go to bed.
Yeah, I
I
can hear
hear
you.
you, Manuel.
Okay. Just want to know, because there's some technical problems we're having. But anyways, after let us actually talk about before we get to talk about most of the disasters, we should talk about the construction of the ship. So yeah, in the early 1904, during the 1900s, work commenced at Ferryfield Shipbuilding and Engineering in Glasgow, Scotland. Yes, I know a lot of people might say Scotland. Yeah, I know a lot of people say that.
Scotland.
That's where Donald. I
It's
know. A
Scotland.
lot of people might say Donald and Douglas, and they will also say, "Hey, what about the Demo Man? He's also Scotland from TF2." Yeah, he
Scotland.
is actually.
It's Scotland.
Yes.
It's Scotland.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I say
Anyway,
that.
it's fine. I know. Go ahead, get it out of your system. Okay. Anyways,
Scotland.
so the ship liners were designed by Francis Elgar. Francis Elgar. And for those who don't know, he was a naval architect born in Portsmouth on the 24th of April of 1845, and of course was the eldest son of 9 children of Francis Ansel Elgar. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that right. But yeah. And they were specific to be twin screw liners with the service speeds of 18 knots or 33 kilometers an hour. And to those who don't know, a screw, it's a nickname for propeller. It's basically a nickname for propellers that a lot of people call it at the time. The crew of the Titanic, they call it the propeller's screw because it's like a screwdriver. It's like a little screw when you you have a screwdriver and you just screw a nail or something. One of those nails or something. That's basically what people call it, honestly, nowadays. And because both of them were identical appearance, with just two funnels and two masts, of course, with equal passenger capacity of just over 1,500 passengers.
I would understand.
It's very hard to understand, bro. Especially if we're talking about maritime disasters, dude. You gotta know how you're doing, honestly. There's a lot of nicknames. You might get confused, but they're pretty easy to pronounce, honestly. Anyways, continuing. In the early planning stages, Their intended names were to have been called, quote, Empress of Germany and Empress of Austria, but were later changed and were presently, they were changed to the name Empress of Britain and Empress of Ireland. Following the implementation of the policy that any future Canadian Pacific ship named in the Empress format would be respectfully named after a dependence or colony of the British Empire, which is, we all know, the UK. Of course, the UK, they have a lot of
or
small
or
and
Britain or United Kingdom.
United Kingdom, British. People don't like calling it United Kingdom for some reason. They just prefer calling them the UK, which it's
Oh,
understandable. Or GB.
It's
was
just
it
like
because it was too
it's
long?
just like when you call your full name in different types of Discords. There is drift.
It's not like you're trying. It's like kind of like the episode of Molly McGee where Molly was like her first day and like she just tries to tell like Andrea, and I get
Or
that.
Andrea, or
That's very
Andre, or
understandable.
Andre,
I don't I
and
don't
people,
I don't
and also with Andrea's his last name, they pronounced it either Andrea or Andrea.
I mean, I get why she was mad. I get it. No, I mean, how would you feel if someone mispronounced her name? Like, that's like, I mean, I would be mad. I mean, I would get mad, but don't take it seriously. But, anyways, let's continue. Okay, so the sheep's keel was laid down, and for those who don't know, what's a keel? A keel is actually the bottommost logical structural element on a vessel. They have hydraulic systems. That's where they control everything. They control the engines. They control the everything. They control the boilers, for example. They control the boilers, the engines, the pumps, everything that a ship needs. Everything that a ship needs. And of course, it was constructed on April 10th, 1905. For hull number, they and a lot of the constructions at the time, they had names. Like ships that were being built have a name. They have a hull number. They call it, but this one they call it 443. Titanic also had it too, and I don't know if this is correct, but if I'm wrong, please correct me. But her hull number was around 5. I think it was. I don't remember actually. I don't remember. But can someone tell me about it? Please leave in the comment below so I can understand most of them. So they have these hull numbers to represent most of the ship's names. They didn't call it like the Empress of Ireland right away. No, no, they had other things to carry out. Because construction was working up. She had to get everything ready: her funnels, her boilers, her basically everything. Just namely everything. Of course, at Fairfield's birth number, that's number 4, next to her sister ship, Empress of Britain, which was being built at the time. They were both being constructed at the same time. And it was around, like, the ship's length of Ireland was around 570 feet or 170 meters overall, and 548.9 feet or 167.3 meters between per pranticles. And for those who don't know what's pranticles, we'll actually show you right now. Actually, we're not gonna lie. Elijah, would you please show the audience what is the prandos or something like that? A lot of people call it.
What the
Yeah.
But
ship
yeah,
looks like?
yes, no. What the word I said? The length between perpenticles. Honestly,
Which one? Can you say?
the one I'm holding right now. I'm presenting it right now. Come on, dude.
Can you send it to me in the private chat?
Um,
Oh yeah,
yes.
this one. This one.
This one. Okay, there we go.
Oh yeah, I
There,
see
yeah.
it. See. I got you.
Okay. So for those who don't know, this picture here, for example, this actually shows how it is. You have the front of the ship. The ship's size, of course, is how the ship's size looks like. Between
Oh,
the
there's
bow,
a relative water line.
bow and loaded. And of course that's where the rudders are located.
That's
They're
a
located at the
preventer.
stern. They're
That's a
located at
ship
the stern.
preventer.
Yes, there are a lot of nicknames they call it, honestly, in ships at the time. They call, like, the back of the ship, they call it a stern, and that actually makes sense. And in front of the ship, they call it they call it the starboard. They call it starboard, for example, or
Yeah.
they call it the
Oh, hey
bow
Trip,
or the
Trip,
boat.
because you could tell the fact that because ships has different names. I mean, there's
A lot
cruise
of them have
ship,
different
or ocean
names.
liner,
A
or
lot of them have
transfer,
different names.
cargo ship.
It's a cargo ship, but you get the point though. Like, the bow of the ship is in front, the back of the ship is called the stern. So basically, they had to use this at the time. That's how they measured most of the ships and how they know which one is the bow of the ship and which is the stern of the ship. And back then, it was very hard at the time. Between the 1900s, it was very hard to be mathematical. You have to be mathematical. I mean, that's what it's part about being an engineer. Honestly, you have to have a lot of math, and I'm not willing to do math because math hurts my brain. Okay, it hurts my brain. It actually hurts my brain. I'm not gonna lie.
Me
But
too.
yes, but you have to learn math nonetheless. You have to learn it
Same here.
still.
It hurt. I think it hurt my brain.
It hurts everyone's brains, dude.
Oh,
Okay.
hey Trip.
Anyways,
Hey Trip. Fun fact.
what?
Do you know that Titanic made appearance in Ghostbusters 2?
Oh yeah, I heard. Yeah, I saw that. I first I thought that was a lie. I was like, I was like thinking that, oh, it's a lie. It was probably someone. It was probably another ship. Maybe it was, I don't know, Lusitania or
That was just
I know,
no,
I know
because
that was like
that
some
was just
sort of a.
a Titanic in the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I know which scene you're talking about. I know that scene. I've seen Ghostbusters like so many times. I know which one.
yeah, me too, because I'm a fan of Ghostbusters as well as the other
I used to
Sony
be a fan of
franchise like
Ghostbusters, but not
Spider-Man.
anymore. I just grew tired out of it. Just a lot of reasons.
But I'm still a fan of
Anyways,
Well,
Ghostbusters
did you
though
know that they
because
had
I
the
can't wait for
Ghostbusters and
the
Stranger Things drip?
oh yeah, I heard. Yep,
And
definitely.
speaking of
But
Stranger Things, I'm still waiting for the season 5.
me too. Well,
Stranger
season
Things.
six,
Oh,
actually. Or season season
I
five.
can't wait to
like
see
the
if they can
creature thing,
add
like
more
the
80s
that
songs,
mouth,
especially the ones
Oh
from
scary
my
the
looking
god,
mouth.
80s
1970s.
music. Yes. Okay. Anyways, let's get back to the subject. Okay.
JP is
So
Yeah.
the
even in the
beam
call with
around
me.
okay. Can I talk? Thank you. The beam was 65.7 feet, 20.0 meters, and her depth was around 36.1.7 feet or 11.2 meters. Empress of Ireland had twin floor four. I'm sorry, I pronounced that wrong. Four-bladed propellers, each driven by quote a quadruple expansion steam engine. And Elijah, do you know what's a Marin steam engine? Have you know?
Which one?
A quadruple expansion steam engine. And fun fact, these were actually made of how steam engines were made. Actually, they were used
Oh,
to make
because
steam
yeah,
engines.
Trip. Because you could tell the name Steve Engine was used
And in case
for
you don't
the
know, oh,
was
it's
used
also
for
known
the
as
Trinity,
a
the Atomic
compound
Events, right?
steam engine because it's a type of steam engine where steam is expanded in two or more stages.
Yeah.
Typical
I
Oh yeah,
mean,
arrangement
because
every
for a
steam
compound
has
engine
every element. We
is
already know
that
what
the
steam
steam is
has
first
actually, and
expanded in a high pressure HP cylinder, then having given up heat and losing pressure. It exhausts directly into one or more larger volume, low pressure LP cylinders. Multiple expansion engines employ additional cylinders or progressively lower pressure to extract
yeah,
further energy from the steam.
of course, yeah,
Invented in 1781, this technique was first employed on a Cornish
okay,
beam engine in 1804, and around 1850, compound engines were first intro- introduced into Lancashire texture mills.
okay.
They also
All
used
right. I
it
think that's enough. I think
basically
that's enough. I think that's enough. I think that's enough.
they also used
We
it
just wanted to talk about
basically.
most of these things. Like that's a little fun fact that these quadruple expansions were actually used on steam engines, and at the time in the 1900s, I mean, I don't know when did they started making steam engines. I don't know if it was around the 1800s or so. I don't know about the UK or something, but I do know that some steam engines in the 1800s they were built during the Civil War of America. We were talking about American history then. Yes, they were built during
And
those
steam
times between the Civil
locomotive,
War.
and also in 1802, and steam engines were created around the 19th century. In 1802, Richard Trevithick patented a high pressure engine and created the first steam powered locomotive engine on wheels.
And it was actually one of the first according to here, I also searched this here. It says They were inceptions of steamboats in the early 19th centuries during the time. And of course, it's one of the largest scale manufacturers in history, honestly. It's one of the most iconic thing that mankind has built, honestly. We're talking about some sort of the word I would say we're talking about an environmental like distribution, industrial, something like that,
Understand.
Exactly. But let's get back to most of the stories. Let's get back to the story. Okay,
Let's
so
go back to
between
the
them, the
let's
two
go back to ship
engines,
story.
yes, between them, the two
Um,
engines were rated at 3,168 NHP, or in other words, they were called horsepower. Of course, it's called horsepower, and gave her a service speed of around 18 knots, 33 kilometers an hour. She had twin funnels and two masses, and you see in the picture that we saw earlier. That was, of course, the impressive Ireland. Of course, the safety features on the Impress of Ireland kind of was similar to like Titanic, A lot of people say, oh, Titanic was unsinkable, but because of safety features at the time of watertight bulkheads. Let's get a little information about what does the watertight bulkheads do. In an event of a collision of a ship, like let's say a ship hits something and water starts coming in front of the bow of the ship or the stern. Let's say it happened in somewhere. The ship hits something from either the front of the ship or in the back. And when water starts coming in, these watertight bulkheads, like a lot of people say, without watertight bulkheads, the water would just go around the ship. It will just go inside the ship. It will flood one room and it will flood the other. It'll flood the other and the other and etc. You get the whole thing. It'll flood quickly. But with these watertight bulkheads,
Yeah.
they were there to design to separate water from flooding. If one room is breached, then the water would stay underneath. Like the water that enters in would, of course, in fact, stay in the water. In other words, it would not overflow. It would not overflow the ship at all. It would like the water that's already inside the ship would stay there and not flood anywhere else. It's designed to control water in the event of a hull breach. If a breach happens, if a ship hits something and water starts coming in, there would be separate rooms that these doors would shut down. Once like the crew sees something's wrong, they would hit the button right there to close all watertight doors, just like how they did with Titanic's disaster. They shut down the watertight bulkheads at the time of the iceberg collision. When the Titanic hit the iceberg, the first officer ran inside the bridge and he shut down the button. He pressed the button to shut down all the 16 watertight compartments and such. But theoretically, the watertight was very new at the time. They were very new. They did not test that anything would happen. That in an event of something like this magnitude of a sinking, could cause that the sinking of a ship and cause so many lives. In other words, you kind of understand what I'm saying, right, guys? Sorry, I sound like a nerd.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So like
Oh.
these hulls were, of course, they were built. All 11 bulkheads. The Impressive Ireland had around 11 bulkheads extended from the double bottom to, of course, beneath the shelter deck, and of course, it's equivalent to around 3 decks above the waterline. By design theory, the vessels could remain afloat with up to 2 adjacent compartments open to the sea. Or in other words, if two compartments are flooded, they would not sink. But more than two, that could end up then of course they would founder, or in other words, sink. And of course, it was, however, what would prove to be a fatal flaw in her design in 1914 was that unlike on board Titanic, where the watertight doors could be closed by means of a switch on the ship's bridge. Remember, as I said earlier, remember, like back then, like in Titanic, when the iceberg collision happened, they ran inside the bridge. The first officer ran to the bridge and closed the watertight doors by going to the bridge because there was a button right there to automatically shut all watertight compartments like very fast. And a lot of theories have happened about Titanic, saying that the watertight doors didn't close in time, and like in average, it takes about 10 seconds for all the hull. Like if it's a
I
16
would
compartment breach,
kind of
like those doors
understandable
will take
about that.
slow, because they're made of metal, dude. Metal is heavy. Think about it; it's really heavy. Metal's heavy, and it takes time just for like if you're shutting them off, like who knows what's going to happen. If you're in a hurry and you're impatient and you just want to get the watertight doors closed, then something bad would happen. Maybe the doors could be stuck, or the doors might be jammed. They would be jammed and the water would start breaching. And where the watertight doors could be closed, as I said earlier, by going to the bridge and just shutting them off, the watertight doors on board in Press of Ireland were required to be closed manually. In other words, there was no button. They had to be people below deck, and they had to close it with using a lever. A lever. They had to use a lever or a lever, I would say, lever. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the words. Lever, a lever. They had to use a lever to close the watertight doors manually. They cannot be closed with any other technological stuff. No, that wasn't there at the time. I mean, Titanic did have that, but in this case, with Impressive Ireland, she didn't have that, and that would be a critical moment into the sinking. And I'm being honest. Of course, with the watertight doors, and also in the wake of Titanic's disaster, Impress of Ireland, like many other liners, had her quote life-saving equipment updated, because of course after Titanic's disaster there was a lot of changes. Ships were required to have more lifeboats and have 24-hour radio communication, and of course they had to have other types of like everything, and they have to be checked every single day, at the time. And of course, when she first entered service, because she entered service around in the year 1906, and she had been equipped with standard wooden lifeboats, which before 1912 they were replaced with 16 steel lifeboats mounted in confrontational radical davits. And for those who don't know what's a davit is a crane that holds the lifeboat. Titanic had them, Olympic had them, Lusitania had them. Any ship had that. They had a davit that crew have to use ropes. They use ropes, cranes, anything that they had to lower a lifeboat. Like either lower a lifeboat or pick up a lifeboat. They had to do that at the time, under which were stored another 26 wooden collapsible lifeboats, all of which combined at around 1,686 people, more than 280 on board. Of course, let's go to the story. Impress of Ireland was launched on January 27th, 1906. With her original configuration, she required a crew of 373 people and had berths for 1,542 passengers in 4 classes of 7 decks at the time. And a deck is, you already know what a deck is, honestly. You guys know that. It's the front of the ship, it's just the whole entire ship, it's the whole thing. Now, so what made this ship so popular, the Titanic? Well, honestly, it was pretty. Oh my god, what's going on? Yo, chill.
Oh, sorry, it's me.
It's fine. Okay. So, how was it inside the ship? Let's talk about how was life. Was it more luxurious than Titanic? Kinda. But here in this picture, Elijah, would you please send to everyone? Please show it to everyone. This is the first class of the ship of the Impress of Ireland. And
So,
it isn't
wait,
grand like the grand
I know the grand-
staircase in the Titanic. It's not really that unique. I'd say it was just decent, At least they did try to not copy Titanic, because if they did copy Titanic, then they would just steal other people's ideas, because you don't want to do that. Don't steal other people's ideas. That's wrong. Don't do that. Don't do that. So, as around here, right here, we'll talk about the first class. Okay, so first class accommodation. They were located amidships up above the upper deck and lower deck. And right here, they have a lot of, it's really easy access, like they were luxurious, it was like luxurious inside, they had the first class main staircase that we saw, which similar, well, a lot of people say that actually looks like similar to like the one they have on Titanic, the grand staircase, but for me, I don't think so. I mean, it was luxurious, not gonna lie, luxurious.
But
Anything
not
else?
as luxurious as the famous Titanic.
Honestly, nothing is more
Well, they're
compatible
going
than
to start
Titanic,
the shower,
honestly.
okay?
And on deck below, on the shelter deck,
Honestly.
remember they have shelter decks for all classes, so just let you guys know. And it was
Oh my god.
legitimately first class dining rooms. Of course,
But
they
around
had dining rooms, separate dining rooms too. 31st class children were located at forward end of deck. And of course, scattered across all three decks were areas of 2 and 4 bed cabins. Cabins like it's like a little small bedroom. It's a small bedroom, small bathroom, you name it. They have everything, everything to make the passengers comfy. Make them comfortable. Second class was kind of very similar to first class, however. The staircase was also located there too. Actually, the first class entrance, of course, was also they had a second class thing, but it was very different than the others. According to the ship's deck plans, cabins for 134 passengers on the upper deck were designed to be converted to first class cabins if needed, while the cabins for 234 passengers on the main deck could simultaneously be converted to be used for third class passengers if needed. So apparently they try to do everything that they can to try preventing something bad like Titanic from happening again. They want to prevent a sinking from happening. Of course, let's talk about the steerage class, or in other words, third class. For those who don't know, like what exactly third class
Just
is
want to
on board.
get it quick, get it done quickly because I have my job tomorrow at
Okay, don't worry. We'll try finishing up. Okay, third class was
and we'll try to get
honestly
to
kind of like
another
old and
one,
new
the
at the same
USS Garrison.
time and such. So, like, on the port side was third class ladies' room, which included a piano, while across on the starboard side was the third class, quote, a smoke room. It's like a little smoke room that you have. You just light up a cigarette and just smoke in your room and something like that, which you cannot do that because honestly, don't smoke. With an adjacent bar, of course, you have a bar, you get whiskey, you get, I don't know, you get beer or something, just anything. And according to the third class, there will be around 300 passengers, and 200 of them actually would be, everything. And the reason there's third class is because a lot of people want to immigrate themselves to the United States. They want to start a new life. They want to find a new place, new job, new opportunities. That's what the USA is about, the land to find a good job, get more money, raise a family, just the typical American way. That's all I could say. The typical American way. Of course, we're going to talk about, and next, we're going to talk about this. Before we talk about the sinking, let's talk about the main voyage, or in other words, the first trip out to sea. In June 29th of 1906, the Empress of Ireland departed Liverpool for Quebec City on her main voyage. The following morning, she made a port of Morville, a coastal town on the north coast of Ireland, to pick up a number of Irish immigrants before making for the open on the Atlantic Ocean. Her first trip across the Atlantic, she carried around 257 passengers, with 119 in first class and 442 in second, third class being booked well past capacity of over 796. That's a lot, actually. That's a lot. And of course, everything was routine. There was no incidents, and everything just became good. Of course, Empress of Ireland's final success would crossing end when she arrived back at Quebec City on May 22, 1914, by which time she transported 119,262 passengers westbound to Canada, and another 67,838 eastbound to the UK. Disaster. We're at the point of the sinking. Let us talk about everything about the sinking. What led up to the sinking and why? Why did so many people had to die? Well, we don't know how many people were dead, but we could probably tell. Anyways, Impress of Ireland departed Quebec City for Liverpool at around 16:30 local time or Eastern Standard Time on May 28th, 1914. Manned by a crew of 420 and carrying 1,057 passengers, roughly two-thirds of her total capacity in first class. The list of passengers were relatively small, with only 87 booked passengers. The small number did not, however, spare the inclusion of some rather notable figures from both sides of the Atlantic. The captain of the ship at the time was was cap was Captain Henry Candle, the final captain of Impress of Ireland, and he was actually was a young, he was head of the firm Lyman Sons and Co. and Cooperation, which in 1914 was one of the most largest pragmatical company in Canada, who was bound for Europe for for a for a quote a belated honeymoon with his young wife Florence. Oh damn, that guy really wants that. I'm sorry, I know that's out of context. I'm sorry, I mean, there's no disrespect about that. Belated honeymoon, that's fine. That's normal. That's normal stuff. He wants to go back for his wife. That's understandable. Want to go back with family.
Anyways, you want to get to the
Anyways, let's get to
the
the thinking. Okay, so let's get to the part about the collision itself. The collision and sinking. Okay, this is all you've been waiting for. On May 29th, 1914, where the pilot disembarked, she resumed a normal outward bound course about north 76 east, or 076 degrees, and soon sighted the masted light of the SS Storstad, a Norwegian collar. On her starboard bow at the distance of several miles. Likewise, Starstad, the ship, which was embraced at Metis Point and on a visual reciprocal course of W by S, or west and south, 259 degrees, sighted Impress of Ireland's masthead lights. Remember, she had masthead lights at the time, so it was pretty cool. It was normal practice at the time. They had to prevent ships from hitting each other and such, so they had headlights in front of them. Just like headlights on a car. You have to have headlights all the time, especially in the dark time if you're driving home. You got to do that. Anyways, these first sightings were made in clear weather conditions, but however, things changed. Fog somehow soon enveloped the ships. Crew on board couldn't know what was going on, and they were confused. This might be out of context, but it reminds me of the episode of Thomas called Something in the Air, when Henry was about to take the Flying Kipper and he got into a fog and he couldn't see anything. And then he didn't see nothing until he was in front of him. He didn't see the water and he derailed and got into an accident. But yeah, imagine yourself trying to find your way in complete darkness on water and there's a fog ahead. It would be very difficult to see, honestly.
Yeah.
Fog is
Especially at
very,
night, right?
very hard to see. You don't know where you're going. You're lost. You don't know what's going on. You're on a ship and there's a fog ahead. In normal circumstances, the crew on board would just slow the ship down, right? Or stop the ship until the fog goes away. Like normal ships, they always do that. Normal circumstances, they would either stay their ship, they would stop their ship altogether and wait till the fog clears, or they can proceed, but with caution. They can go, but they have to go slowly. They have to be aware of what's going on. And however, but with the case of Empress of Ireland, however, the crew, yeah, they didn't do nothing actually to prevent the fog. And because of the fog, the ships restored to repeated use of their fog whistles. And at the time, they had fog whistles. Like ships at the time had these called fog whistles at the time. They were designed to alert ships. They were like the crew would go on board of the bridge and they would blow a whistle, letting other ships know if they have ships around them that there's a fog ahead and they have to slow down. And normally, no one uses. And I actually researched a bit, and it turns out a lot of crews and ships at the time they did not have that much of fog whistles at the time. So yeah, that seems like a bit of a red flag right there. And then everything was okay for the crew of Empress of Ireland until at around 1:56 local time, Starstad crashed into Empress of Ireland's starboard side at around midships. Starstad remained afloat, but Empress of Ireland, however, was damaged from the collision. And we actually have the picture here of the collision to see right here, guys. So Elijah, would you please show it to everyone about this? Yeah, that is a huge dent. That is a huge dent on the
Oh
star.
my god.
That is like flat as a pancake. Not joke. It is flat as a pancake. Really.
Oh my god,
And
that's oh my god, that's
dude,
terrible.
that is a big nasty gash. That is a
Oh
huge
god, that was terrible.
honestly. It is huge. That is some sort of huge.
Yeah,
And
oh my god.
so
You
let's talk
still have to
about
do
how it
about
happened right away. After the incident, there was a gaping hole in her side, caused the lower decks to flood immediately. Like it wasn't minutes that the flooding went. It was just seconds. It was seconds. It went from like when the impact happened, the water suddenly just got in within 5 or 10 seconds after the impact. So apparently they they were on the verge of sinking because the water is flooding in everywhere. Like you can't stop water because water pressure like that, you cannot stop them. You cannot stop them at all at the time. You can't stop them. Once the water comes in, it's done. It's already done. Crew at this
Literally,
point
it's done.
were alarming to crew. Captain Henry Kendall, shouted to the crew of Starstone with a megaphone to keep her engines at full power and plug the hole. But Empress of Ireland continued her forward motion, and the current of St. Lawrence shoved Storstad away after about 5 seconds, allowing 60,000 gallons of water per second to begin pouring into Empress of Ireland. And I know you're thinking, you probably think this is a mass panic. A lot of people are panicking. Passengers are going up deck. They're getting towards the lifeboats. Not exactly a panic, but they realized that something bad was happening, and they knew they had to evacuate. They knew they had to escape. It was not panic. It
Jesus.
wasn't panic. It was not panic. There was no panic, but they were concerned. So I guess the it kind of grew a panic a bit. It kind of a lot of people's minds were like saying they realized something was wrong. And digging, I did some research of digging, and most of the passengers didn't realize what was going on. A majority of them knew what was happening, but not every passenger knew what was happening. I mean, they heard the collision, they heard it, they felt it, but they didn't realize what was going on. They didn't think it was something seriously. With the Empress of Ireland lurched heavily to the starboard and began setting by the stern, there was no time to shut the watertight doors. Yeah, obviously it was no time. There was no time because the water's already in. Like 60,000 gallons of water inside a ship already. Yeah, that's done. Like you're done. The ship's doomed.
Okay.
You gotta get everyone
Yes.
out. Get everyone out at the deck and everything.
It's a job. You have a
And
job. And you call
water
me these things
enters
and
through
it's
open
just fine.
portholes, some only a few feet above the water line. and indicted passenger, and in other words, it somehow got into the cabins of passengers. Most of the passengers and crew were located in the lower decks, and however, most of them that were on below the decks, however, they drowned. Yeah, they literally drowned to death. They died. They were drowned. They were dead. They
Actually, I
died from
don't
the
think
water.
this
They were
is
drowned.
this.
Those
Actually, it has
bedhead
an instant.
upper decks were awakened by
Okay,
the
so I'm
collision
not
and
gonna
immediately boarded lifeboats on the boat
tender.
deck.
You have to clear some
Within a
stuff.
few minutes, the
Okay?
ship's list
Good.
was so
That's
severe that the port of lifeboats could not be launched.
what
Some passengers
like
attempted to
this.
do so,
Like
but the
this.
lifeboats just
Like
crashed into
this.
the side
Now,
of the ship,
see mother?
spilling their
You point your
occupants into the
finger.
frigid water.
Is this going to get
5
mother?
starboard lifeboats were launched successfully, while a sixth
I
one
am not going to
capsized,
I'm not dating, okay?
during lowering.
Yes. Right.
The lights and the power on Impressive Ireland eventually failed
Will you
5 or
do
6
this?
minutes after the collision, plunging the ship into darkness.
Secret.
10 or 11
Try.
minutes after the collision, the ship
I'm not
lurched
sure.
violently
Guys.
onto the starboard side. Oh, what?
Excuse me. I think we have to go and have this job tomorrow.
Oh,
Because
well, let's just finish a bit. Like, can you tell your mom for 5 minutes? Just for a couple of minutes. Just for 5 minutes. We're almost done. And, okay, as I mentioned earlier, within few minutes, the ship, the Impressive Ireland, listed. In other words, she went on her right side. She started leaning from her right side, dangling with many people still in and just watching what they were going through. They were scared. They were scared. I would be scared too if I was in a situation like this, you know? If I noticed something was wrong, I would definitely panic, you know, like there's nothing we can do. And some passengers, and because they were panicking, they attempted to go on the lifeboats. But however, some of them just crashed into the side of the ship. And some of them, heck, spilled their occupants into the water. 5 starboard lifeboats were launched successfully, while a 6th, however, capsized during lowering. The lights and power of Impressive Ireland eventually failed 5 or 6 minutes after the collision, plunging the ship into darkness. 10 or 11 minutes later, after the collision, the ship lurched violently onto her starboard side, allowing as many as 700 passengers and crew to crawl out of the portholes and decks onto her port side. The ship lay on her side for a minute or two, having seemingly round aground. A few minutes later, at 2:10, about 14 minutes after the collision, the bow rose briefly out of the water, and the ship finally sank. Hundreds of people were thrown into the near freezing waters. The disaster resulted in deaths of over 1,200 passengers were killed, and 100 others were severely hurt and injured at the time. In other words, many of the passengers died from, I guess I would say, hypothermia because the water was kind of freezing at the time. But there were 465 survivors, however. 465 survivors were found, 4 children, and there were around 138 children, and 41
Oh,
women.
hello there. I'm just here for my final moments for the Two Squad server.
Also, the
No,
TNT
there's no-
fella, don't leave the Two Squad group chat on Twitter.
No, I think I would just stay with .g and M because I'm done with the Two Squad. I can't deal with the Two Squad anymore. I'm sorry.
Don't
I'm
stay-
done.
don't-
C16 the real
We're in the
boon.
middle of a live stream, CS16 Zilfander. Don't go on their side.
And
Please
also,
don't
we actually
throw a
have,
milk
we
hold on,
actually have a
Manuel's
picture
talking.
here. Eliza, would you please send this picture? Please show it to everyone. They have to know.
Please don't.
Right here in this picture, these are the
No,
coffins of all the
these
children that
real
did not
good.
survive the sinking. They were kids on board the ship, and out of the children, there were 138 children. 4 of them survived, and others
Oh my
were dead.
god.
Wow, that's definitely a long time
That's-
ago.
that's-
Oh, my bad.
And they
Oh my
were,
God,
and they
that's,
were,
oh
and
my
they were.
Oh.
Their bodies were recovered, and they
Hey, come
Poor
on.
kids. Oh,
Hey,
God,
she's
poor
afraid of that
kids.
It was a very tragedy, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just,
Think about the children. Think about it.
I'm sorry. I get emotion when it comes to this, so I'm just gonna stop because I'm getting a little emotion because I don't want to say that.
Okay.
It's very sad. It's very sad, honestly.
So, Alex, what is it?
So are you leaving the Two Squad group chat or no? On Twitter?
I already left the Two Squad group chat. And
By
I
next morning, after the sinking happened, a commission was inquired.
Jermaine, please do
Like the
not
commission
interrupt
and
Griff.
inquiry was held in Quebec on June 16,
hold on.
1914, and lasted for 11 days. The commission inquiry, the British inquiry, were trying to find investigations to find out what was the true cause of the sinking. They wanted to find investigators who was responsible for the sinking, and we'll play a picture about it actually right now, Elijah.
Guess.
Right here,
Guess
this
what,
is the
Alex?
courtroom of what's going on. By none other than Lord Mercy.
Right.
Lord Mercy was the judge of the whole incident. He would later be played as the judge on the Lusitania incident a few years later. 1 year later, actually, he would later be the judge
guys.
in the inquiry of the Lusitania sinking. Actually,
Huh.
with everything going on,
it's
the
thunderstorm
British
in my
admiral,
area.
they wanted to find investigations to find out what was the true cause of the sinking. And honestly, the sinking was honestly one of the most devastating sinkings of them all. I mean, the ship started starboarding, it's starboard and everything. There were also witnesses, about 61 witnesses, that included 24 crew and officers of the Empress of Ireland who survived. And out of all the people, there was one man who was able to survive. You all probably think the captain was probably dead, right? Nope. He was alive. He survived. Captain Candell. And 12 crew officers were getting their testimonies and to find out what was the actual cause, what happened, and who was responsible for the incident.
Hey, this is such a rough feather.
And
What?
with everything going on,
So you're not gonna leave the Toon Squad group chat on Twitter?
Witnesses.
And I'm also gonna leave the Two Squad group chat on Twitter.
Oh no.
So let us talk about the report. Okay. So after all the evidence had been heard, the commissioners stated that the question as to who was to blame resolved itself into a simple issue. And ironically, people wanted to blame the officer. They wanted to blame the crew of the Empress of Ireland. Do you guys think the crew of the Empress of Ireland are to blame for the incident, or what? What do you guys think is to blame for this incident?
That was freaking crazy, Manuel.
What do you mean it's crazy? We're talking about a story here, dude. We didn't know. We're talking about
I think that story's a little bit crazy in my opinion.
But okay, that's understandable. But like,
in
this
my
is a tragic
opinion,
shipwrecks. This is a tragic shipwrecks we're talking about, guys.
I can't believe he actually survived the incident after that incident happened. Like, that was freaking crazy.
But and honestly, talk about the reports, namely, which of the two ships changed her course during the fog? They could come into, quote, no other conclusion. In other words, they have no answer. I don't know if this is still, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I've heard people say that the answer to figuring out the sinking of the accident of Press of Ireland still remains a mystery. I don't know if this is or not, but if I'm wrong, comment below. Tell me if I'm wrong or right.
Don't leave the Toon Squad group chat on Twitter.
I'm right.
Joining the live stream on my laptop in 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Changed their course to starboard and so brought up a collision. The inquiry blamed that some officers in the ship had changed their course and actually made her collide with the other ship, with the Starstad, which is the ship that we saw earlier from the collision. Of course, the chief officer, Toffins of Starstad, was actually specifically blamed for wrongly and negligence alerting his course in the fog, and in addition, failing to call the captain when he saw the fog coming on. And it actually turns out he was actually telling the truth, because the chief officer of the Starstad did not tell the captain nor any other officers about the fog. And that is huge negligence. You're supposed to know if there's a fog up ahead. If the weather changes and you're in a ship, you tell your captain right away before an accident happens. But it turns out it was actually nope, that did not happen. Sadly, it didn't happen. And a lot of people might say if like the chief of the Starstat told the captain about the fog, and they would have known about Empress of Ireland in time, do you think the incident could have prevented? I'd say no, no, no. Even if it happened, still wouldn't prevent it, honestly, because like they were not they did not see the ship until it hit them. You know, like they didn't see it till it was right in front of them, and they saw the aftermath. On June 5th, 1914, Canadian Pacific announced it had chartered at the Alliance Line's Virginian to fill in the void in service in its fleet left by the loss of Empress of Ireland, joining Empress of Britain and other previously acquired Canadian Pacific ships on the St. Lawrence run. Virginian embarked from her last voyage from Liverpool under Canadian Pacific service on the 12th of June, which the same year, which has to have been the next departure date from Liverpool of Empress of Ireland. In recent years, in 2005, a Canadian television film called The Last Voyage of Empress investigated the sinking with historical reference and other basic stuff. Apparently, it was actually on live stream, you know? It was actually there before. Shortly after the disaster, a salvage operation began on Empress of Ireland to recover the purser's safe and the mail. This was deemed a plausible effort due to the wreck's relatively shallow depth of the water, around 130 feet.
Leave the tournament for them. Don't leave the Toon Squad group chat.
Shallow enough so that in the aftermath of the sinking, the manifest and the funnels of Empress were still visible just beneath the surface. Among them were, and as they recovered most of the bodies, the valuables of the ship, the sailors were faced with limited visibility and strong currents from the St. Lawrence River. One of the hard-hat divers.
Excuse me, Drift. Mom's supposed to says to completely turn off my computer.
Okay. Well, let's just finish this incident. And honestly, it's been a few years since this incident. And honestly,
hey, Trip,
there's been a memorial.
I want me to go to sleep right now.
Wait,
Trip,
hold on. Let's just share the screen.
I haven't told you a question.
All right, hurry up, make it quick.
Trip, so what?
Excuse me, Trip. I think my mom's told me to go to sleep.
All right.
Trip, which movie version of Titanic you prefer? A Night to Remember or the James Cameron Titanic?
Night to Remember.
Night to Remember. Excuse me, Trip.
Anyways, but like I just want to say this: there's been a memorial that honored most of the people that died right here in Quebec, Canada, and it's still there to this day.
Excuse me. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
My mom has told me to go.
That was freaking crazy.
All right.
Well, I think my mom's telling me to go to bed.
That's fine.
And and I also
so
left the Two Squad
live stream now. So thank you so much for watching this Question Activities live stream.
Yeah, goodbye.
And tomorrow is my birthday.
And
happy early birthday to
goodbye, see you later.
Peace. God bless you.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
Peace. God bless you all.
Bye.